Hey everybody, it's your good friend Captain Handsome here. As promised, we're going to be delivering with the NFC North today. I'm not going to say anything clever. I'm just going to get right into it, starting with the Green Bay Packers. I do think the Green Bay Packers are going to return to the division title this year. I will say this. I think this is the toughest division in football. I think there is a chance that every team in this division has a chance to be at least 500. I wouldn't say at least, okay. I think the Bears have a cap of 500. But I think every team in this division has a chance to be 500. So I think it's going to be the toughest, hardest fought division. I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers won. I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings won. I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions finished in third. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears finished in third. I do think it's a two-horse race at the top, but I also think the Lions, they could be okay. But as I said, I'm going to start with the Packers. Obviously, the biggest move, they brought in Jimmy Graham. They let Jordy Nelson walk, which to me isn't really a big deal. I honestly believe that Aaron Rodgers is the best. If you follow me, you know I believe Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the game. I believe that Aaron Rodgers might end up going down as the most talented quarterback ever to play the game. I won't say the best, because I think that you do have to have some championship cachet to be the best. So obviously Joe Montana is the best, seeing as he's played in 4 Super Bowls and he lost 0. How many picks did he throw in those 4 games? Also 0. Joe Montana, best of all time. Aaron Rodgers, best right now. I believe Aaron Rodgers he can win 6, 7, 8 games on his own. So if the team wins a couple games, he can get them to 11 wins. I like the Jimmy Graham ad. I think that he's going to be great for the red zone. I guess we'll have to wait and see what Jamal Williams and those guys do, and Aaron Jones do in the running game. It's always a challenge with them. So they got a couple of guys who might be able to do something. Hopefully they can do a little bit of something. I think the biggest thing for the Packers this year is how are Beluga and Bakhtiari going to hold up. If they both hold up for the whole year, I think that the team can easily win the division. If one or both of them, especially Bakhtiari, goes down, they're in trouble, obviously, because Aaron Rodgers can't properly be protected if those two guys aren't healthy and giving her. So I think that's what really matters on this team offensively. Davante Adams is going to, slot in as that number 1 wide receiver, and I think he's going to be great at it. They've got a bunch of guys who can, Randall Cobb, Geronimo Allison, the list goes on. They've got a bunch of guys who can catch the ball. I don't think there's anything to worry about there. On the defensive side of things, I think their front 7 isn't terrible. I think the front 7 is easily their strength. The secondary we know is their weakness. Their defense wasn't spectacular last year. So they drafted 2 cornerbacks in the first two rounds, I think. Yeah, it's got to be first 2 rounds. To try to improve their secondary. I think the move they need to make is go and get Earl Thomas. If you follow me, I think Earl Thomas is the best safety in football. I think there's arguments to be made for Harrison Smith and some other guys, but I think for me, he's my favorite. I think he's the best. I would love to see him in a jersey that I don't hate. I hate the Seahawks. I hate the Cowboys, so I really hope he doesn't go to Dallas. I would like to see him, help develop this secondary into a dirty unit, into a unit that can be powerful, because then maybe Aaron can get his 2nd and 3rd and 4th rings. Because the truth is, without building that defense, they're probably in trouble. They're probably not going to win when it matters, because in the playoffs, you got to be able to defend. So for me, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to carry them really far. I think he's going to probably carry them to a division title. Whether that means anything in the playoffs remains to be seen. From a fantasy perspective, obviously Aaron Rodgers for me is QB1. Beyond that, Davante Adams is probably a top 7 or 8 wide receiver pick. Jimmy Graham is probably a decent, if you can get him as TE6, I think that there's a lot of value. I think there's value there. But for me, the tight ends, if you're not getting Gronk or Kelsey, there's a bunch of guys in the middle there, and I think he just slots in there. So I don't know if I fight for him. As for the running backs, it's really tough. If you can get Williams or Jones, Williams you can get as your RB4, right? As an RB4 on your team right now. And if you can get Aaron Jones as like a throw, like as like a bench guy who doesn't do anything, who maybe you're hoping that he pops off and then you can insert him in, If you can stash him, maybe stash him while he's suspended. Aside from that, I don't think there's a ton of value in Cobb or Allison or any of that kind of stuff, because the truth is, like, he just chucks it around everywhere. Usually his YR1 is the guy who gets all the numbers, and that's going to be Devontae Adams. So at the end of the day, I think that the Packers, if the offensive line stays healthy, that means Aaron Rodgers probably stays healthy, and they probably go 11-5 and win the division. The only team, that I think that could compete for that division would be the Minnesota Vikings. They obviously had a bunch of different things happen for them this year. Obviously, they brought in Kirk Cousins to be their stud quarterback. But I think, not to be understated, they also get Dalvin Cook back. And I think you're adding a quarterback who, I don't think Kirk Cousins is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but he's definitely a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And that's better than Case Keenum. That's better than Sam Bradford. And he can definitely chuck the ball, and he's got some talented guys to go and get it. He's got, Old Reliable and Thielen. He's just got a bunch of guys who, can make plays. He's got a good tight end. He's got, one really good running back, and then Latavius Murray, who I think is garbage, but every GM who's smarter than me thinks has value. So I just think a guy that big who runs away from contact is such a waste. Such a waste. Obviously, they got Sheldon Richardson. He's old. Let's see if he does anything. I'm not sure. He might have even been cut by now. I haven't paid enough attention. As far as guys who are gone, obviously Teddy Bridgewater's gone. Jerick McKinnon's gone. But you really don't need Jerick McKinnon when you've got Dalvin Cook. Jerick McKinnon really didn't get to do a lot last year until Cook got hurt. And now McKinnon, of course, is hurt. So, as far as Minnesota, their offense, I think, is going to be, pretty solid if they can get past still having a not spectacular offensive line. That offensive line is still not great. Luckily for them, they've got some playmakers, so they should be okay. It's what I think prevents their offense from being one of the top 5 or 6 offenses in the league, and makes them a top 10 to 12, probably top 10 offense in the league. Defensively, they're good. We know they're good. They have some of the best players in the league. I previously mentioned Harrison Smith, who I'm just a massive, massive fan of. Their defense on a whole should be one of the top 3 or 4 defenses in the NFL. And that's what, this team really is a 10 or 11 win team as well. The difference for me is if I have to pick, I always take the team that I think has the elite quarterback, and like I said, I think Rodgers is the best. So I think that I'm gonna say Minnesota wins 10.5 games and Green Bay wins 11. If Minnesota wins 12 games and Green Bay wins 10, I'm not gonna be shocked. They're both really good teams. Green Bay is more carried by one guy. Minnesota is more of a balanced, solid team, and so if I think Dalvin Cook's a superstar. So if he busts out this year and they look amazing, and I'm not going to be surprised if they win 12 games. I think they're a very, very good team. I'm not saying anything. I have nothing ill to say about them. I think they're very good, and I will not be surprised at all if they win the division. But for now, I'm picking them at 10 wins, finish second in the division. The team I think is going to finish third is the Detroit Lions. Obviously, their biggest move this offseason was Matt Patricia. But they did, there are a ton of things that happened. They let Eric Ebron go. Haloti Ngata's gone. Travis Swanson's gone. Tahir Whitehead's gone. They brought in Jonathan Freeney. They brought in, I'm cheating off of notes that I have right here because there's so many moves on this team this year. They brought in Deshaun Shedd. And Luke Wilson looks like is going to be their starting tight end, which really just means more balls for the wide receivers and the running backs. Maybe Theo Riddick. They also drafted Kerryon Johnson, who looks like he might be the real deal. Looks like he might be a guy who can shoulder the load. So that's good to see because the Lions have not had that guy in a long, long, long time. What can I say? They got Matty Stafford running the show. Everybody knows how much I love Matty Stafford. I think he's great. I think he's a stud. Like I said, I don't really love their tight end situation, but if Wilson's there to block, and they've had some, they had some offensive line injuries last year, which I think weren't great for them. So they drafted Frank Ragnow. They drafted Ragnow, and their offensive line is going to be healthier. They got Luke Wilson blocking more than receiving. that should, help the running game. It should help Matty Stafford have more time to find the receivers that he's got. And obviously, I mean, with Golden Tate and Marvin Jones Jr., you're in really, really, really great shape. And then they've got Kenny Golladay, who's their big home run guy. So from a passing standpoint, this team should be dynamite. I think the running game will be better because I like what I've seen out of Kerryon Johnson, and I like Theo Riddick. Defensively, I mean, we know who Matt Patricia is. Matt Patricia runs a bend but don't break defense, and let's see what happens in Detroit. I mean, they don't have the same culture that he had in New England. They don't have the same swagger and the same confidence, and I always felt that that's a big part of why New England was as successful as they are, because I think that kind of stuff matters. But I guess it remains to be seen what he can do with their defense. From a fantasy perspective, I really like taking Stafford as like the QB8, which just seems to be where he's going, QB8, QB9 right now. You can get him really late, and he puts up big numbers. Him or Phil Rivers at around the same time, like both of them are going around there, and it's like tons of value right there. Marvin Jones Jr. is going way too late, so I mean, I think I just grabbed him in the third round. No, it was third round. Late third round. I think I just grabbed him in late third round in a 12-team league. So, like, there's a ton of value right there. Golden Tate, obviously, I like. I really like that you can get Kerryon Johnson as, like, I think he's like the 18th or 19th, maybe even the 20th running back going off the board. Like, he's one of the few guys who isn't in, like, a true running back by committee who's getting really, really late, who's being available for you for really, really late. So I really like him. I guess that's probably it. I don't love anything from their tight end perspective, so that's probably where I am with them. As far as how they finish up, I think they're probably a 500 team. I don't think their defense is good enough to compete. Their offense is going to be good because they've got a bunch of really good offensive players, and I think that they've done some work on their running game. High end for them is probably a 9-win season. I don't see any chance where they win the division or make the playoffs simply because the NFC's too good. If the season's a total disaster and they're a bend and then definitely break defense, maybe they win 7 games. I don't know. Moving on to the Chicago Bears, the team that everybody wants to think is the sexy team this year. It's the Bears, the Browns, the Niners. Everyone's picking them to win, 8 more games than they won last year. I mean, the Khalil Mack move really, really, does some business for them. Obviously, everybody really, really likes that move. And after drafting Roquan Smith, to have Roquan Smith and Khalil Mack playing linebacker for you for the next at least like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, like that's gross. But does that mean they're going to be a competitive team this year? Maybe, maybe not. Everybody knows I don't love Trubisky. I don't think he's a superstar. I like Nagy a lot, and I think if Trubisky relies on Jordan Howard, Tarek Cohen, and those guys, like I think that they could be in some decent shape. I mean, you look at I'm cheating again to look at the moves because they're a real bunch as well with them. Obviously, they lost Jarrell Freeman. The big one for me is Josh Sitton. I really don't like losing a stud guard like that, especially when you got a young quarterback. I know that they drafted somebody, I can't remember who it is, but a bunch more moves for them. Obviously, bringing in Trey Burton as their tight end. That remains to be seen if he can be a starting tight end or not. They brought in Chase Daniel to help mentor Mitch Trubisky, and the best thing he's done so far was that time that he pretended to be a fan and got him to autograph, which just I love that stuff. That stuff makes me so happy. Also, Allen Robinson they brought in because they haven't had a receiver since Brandon Marshall, so or Alshon. Man, imagine going from Brandon Marshall and Alshon to last year. Like it's just so gross. Allen Robinson obviously is the stud for that team. I still think that defense is, beyond, the really solid linebacking core. That defense is still pretty shallow. I think the secondary is very, very shallow, and I think that they're going to be in some trouble. I don't think they win more than 5 games this year. I do think they're getting better, and I think in a couple of years they could be a lot better if Trubisky is better than I think he's going to be. Everybody knows I really like Tarek Cohen. I think you get Tarek Cohen really late in a fantasy draft, and you're looking really good. I also really like where Jordan Howard's going. He seems to be going after like around pick 20 or 25, like between picks 20 and 25 and all the drafts I've been in, and I feel like he's got a lot more value than that. I think it's like 25, 26 in PPR and 20 in standard, and I just think there's a ton of value there. They're still going to run the ball. They're still going to do a bunch of fun stuff. Yes, he can't catch the ball, so yes, he loses some value in PPR, but if you're getting him at 25, 26, like in a 10-team league, if you're picking 7th, that means you could get him with your 3rd pick. That's disgusting. Like you absolutely you do that. You know that's the correct answer. Otherwise, I mean, Trey Burton fits into that role of like 10 guys who are in the middle after Gronk and Kelsey. So I wouldn't say you got to grab him or you don't have to grab him. I'm fine one way or another. I think Robinson's going to get the bulk of, the good offensive opportunities because he's easily the best receiver there by a mile. So, I mean, you can look at him. I don't love the Bears. I love Tariq Cohen. I've said that for 2 years. I told you guys how much I like him. Beyond him, and I appreciate who Jordan Howard is. I don't want to touch Trubisky. I ended up having to take him in one of my leagues as my backup, and I'm not in love with that. But I believe in Nagy, so there's some opportunity there. As far as the team, I like I said, I think they're a 5-win team, 6 tops. I wouldn't be blown away if Nagy did some things right and they had some good moments and that linebacking core killed a couple of quarterbacks and got them a few extra wins because of that. But realistically, I think they're a 5 to 6 win team, and that's how I see the NFC North. It looks like the last division I have is the NFC West. Is that correct? NFC East, South, yeah, NFC West, which hopefully I'll have done tomorrow. Like I said, it looks unlikely now that I'm going to get this done before Thursday, but I will have it done before Saturday. I want to make sure to get my betting pot in on Friday. So, yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Please continue to watch. Please continue to let me know what you think. Please continue to make suggestions. And go Dolphins.